In the last lesson, we created our first GraphQL server. The question now is, how do we try out the GraphQL server? Remember I said GraphQL can be operated over HTTP. That means we can use our regular HTTP clients like Postman or Insomnia to test our GraphQL server. But for this course, we will be using a special tool created for this sole purpose called GraphQL Playground. First, let's start our server. Now our server is running on localhost 4000/GraphQL, which we can check out. GraphQL Playground is enabled by default in development. We can choose to enable or disable it by simply specifying it in the apolloo-server object. Now if we restart our server, and try to access it again, we'll get an error because GraphQL Playground has been disabled. Let's enable it again. And restart the server. Refresh this. Since we would always want GraphQL Playground while developing, I'm going to get rid of this entirely. Let's restart the server once more to make sure everything is working. Refresh this. Now, let's explore GraphQL Playground. As you can see, it has an address bar which contains the link to the GraphQL server. Then we have history for viewing previous requests. As you can see, I have some requests in my history that I made while preparing this course. Also, we have Prettify for properly formatting our requests. The main GraphQL Playground window has two panes. The first one is for writing a request, and the other is for displaying the response of the request. Now, let's test our GraphQL server. We need to specify the type of operation we want to run. For now, we want to run a query. So we start by typing query. Then the name of the query we want to run, which is say hello. We can either click the play button to execute the request or press Command or Control Enter. Query is the default GraphQL operation, so we can remove query. We can also explore our schema from within GraphQL Playground. GraphQL Playground has also generated a kind of documentation from our schema for us. This is possible through a feature of GraphQL called introspection. Introspection simply means asking a GraphQL schema for information about what it supports. With GraphQL Playground, we can also specify HTTP headers as well as provide query variables. Before we wrap up this lesson, let's set up NodeMoon, which will automatically restart our server whenever we make changes. First, we need to install it. And we will install it as a dev dependency. Next, let's update our npm script. This will be the script to start our server while in production. So, node index.js. Then we have a dev script. This is where we would use NodeMoon. Now let's start the server using the dev script. Now, NodeMoon will watch our project and restart the server whenever changes are made.